Good morning, students. In continuation of a proton NMR spectroscopy, this is second lecture for you. Today we are going to discuss regarding the presentation of proton NMR spectrum and as well as the types of protons present in a molecule and a chemical shift, etc. Now these are the topics I want to cover in this lecture. Now first one, presentation. Presentation of NMR spectrum. Now in the proton NMR or in the NMR spectrum, we are using radio frequency energy. We are using radio frequency energy. We know it is the least energetic when compared with the other frequencies exist in the electromagnetic spectrum. Least frequency or least energetic radiation. So a least energetic radiation is using to record the spectrum or in the NMR spectrum. Further, the energy difference between the two nuclear levels. Delta E, the energy difference between the two nuclear levels of a spin active nuclei very least when compared with the energy difference between the other type of transitions in a molecule like like electronic transition, like vibrational transition, like rotational transition, etc., etc. So there is a two reasons. One is the energy gap or difference between the two energy levels of spin active nuclei is less, and the energy used in the technique is belongs to radio frequency energy, which is least energetic. So a spin active nuclei require least energy for its spin transition. This extent of energy may not be presented either in the form of a wavelength or either in the form of a wave number. That is, the energy absorbed by various sets of protons present in a molecule is measured in a delta. Measured in a delta, every set of proton absorbed energy, that is a frequency, is measured in a delta and represented in the form of ppm units, parts per million units. So the absorption frequencies are measured in a delta and presented in a ppm units, where the delta is inversely proportional to frequency. That is, higher delta value, lower frequency represented, whereas lower delta value represented a high frequency. So a delta is inversely proportional to frequency like wavelength. Now in the NMR spectrum, in general, the absorption frequencies of a protons present in a molecule are presented on x-axis, that is in delta in ppm units. Now in general, the protons present in an organic molecules are observed energy between 0.0 to 10.0 ppm, 0.0 to 10.0 ppm. Therefore, we should consider the delta values on x-axis from 0.0 to 10.0. This is in general, except in the case of a aldehyde proton and carboxylic acid proton, where the absorption frequencies are more than 10 ppm. But in general, the other kind of protons of a molecule may observe energy between 0.0 to 10.0 ppm. Therefore, I am considering 0.0 to 10.0 ppm energy in a delta that is presenting in ppm unit. So absorption frequencies are presented on x-axis, whereas the extent of absorption, so every set of proton absorbed energy at a particular wavelength or at a particular frequency value or at a particular delta value to some extent. The extent of absorption is known as intensity, which is presented on y-axis. y-axis, that is absorption frequency versus the extent of absorption, that is intensity, constituted the NMR spectrum. Now the spectrum contain a signals like, say I am going to take one example, CH3, CH2, OH, a ethyl alcohol molecule which contain 3 protons of CH3 belongs to one group, say A, 2 protons of CH2 belongs to the other group, say B, the OH proton belongs to other, say designate with C. So there are 3 sets of protons, set A, set B and set C. Why we are classified the protons as A, B, C? Because A is differ from B, B is differ from C with respect to electron density, that which we learned in the yesterday's class. So there are 3 sets of protons belonging to A set, B set and C set. Now already we discussed that a proton with least electron density absorbed energy require less energy. Therefore, a proton with the least electron density signal appear at higher delta value, as the delta is inversely proportional to frequency. So the least electron density proton signal appear at higher delta value, whereas the more electron density proton signal appear at lower delta value, that is high frequency value. Say one signal here, second signal say here, third signal say here. Now there are 3 signals. Now the signal at higher frequency value, that is lower delta value, is belongs to CH3 group, which has more electron density when compared with other. Say this is the signal of A. A signal in between the 2 signals, that is middle signal corresponding to CH2 group, that is B proton, where it appear at moderate delta value. Now the third signal at higher delta value belongs to OH proton, say it is C proton. So this is about presentation of proton NMR spectrum. More electron density proton require more energy and absorbed high frequency, those signals appear at lower delta value. Whereas the least electron density protons require less energy for their spin transition, hence absorbed lower frequency. Therefore, the signals observed at high delta value, where the delta is inversely proportional. Is it clear? Now, further, the number of signals in the spectrum. Now we have a 3 signal where the molecule is invisible. There are 3 signals. The number of signals in the spectrum after its recording is related to number of sets of protons. Number of signals is equal to number of sets of protons. Number of signals in the spectrum is equal to number of sets of protons present in a molecule. Say if the molecule contains 3 sets. Now in this case there are 3 sets, A, B, C sets. So it appear with the 3 signal. If a molecule contains 2 sets of proton, then we will observe 2 signal. If a molecule has only 1 set, then we will observe only 1 signal. Is it clear? If a molecule has 5 sets of different sets of protons, then we will get 5 signals. So the number of signals in the spectrum is equal to number of sets of protons. Is it clear? Next, the intensity, that is the height of every signal. This is CH3 proton signal, CH2 proton signal and OH proton signal. The height of each signal is related to number of protons present in that set. Height is number of signals are related to number of sets of proton. Height or intensity of every signal is related to the number of protons present in a molecule or in a set. So every signal is equal to, the signal height is equal to the number of protons present in that set. Now the number of protons are calculated from the signal intensity with the help of integration or by the process of integration. Integration is nothing but measurement of signal height with the help of scale, or if we recorded the spectrum on a graph paper, then counting the number of divisions through which the signal height is occupied. Are you following? Briefly, the height of every signal is related or equal to the number of proton in that set. The number of protons are calculated by the process of signal integration. Signal integration. Let us study integration. Integration process. Integration. Integration is a process of counting the number of protons present in a one set with the help of its height, with the help of signal height. It is nothing but measurement of signal height or counting the number of division on which the signal is occupied for a set of protons. Is it clear? Now, after measuring every signal height, we will get a relative ratio of protons. After measuring every signal height, we will get only the relative ratio of protons present in a molecule, and each relative ratio on division with a smaller relative ratio value, then we will get some other set of value which are known as relative number of protons. Are you following? After measuring every signal height, so whatever the set of values we are getting are known as relative ratio of proton in each signal. After that, every relative ratio value on division with the smaller relative ratio number, then we will get a relative number of protons in each set, followed by each relative number on multiplication with 2, we will get absolute number of protons. This is called as integration. What we have to do after recording the spectrum, we have to measure the signal heights to get relative ratio of proton in each signal, and then division with the smaller relative ratio number, we will get relative number of protons. Every relative number of proton on multiplication with 2 to get the absolute number of protons. It is called as integration process. For example, we have a spectrum like this. Intensity on y-axis, absorption frequency on x-axis, 0.0. Say a spectrum contains a signals like this. Say we have a 3 signals. Say for example, you consider this is the spectrum for one unknown molecule, where this consisting of 3 signals. 3 signals in the spectrum indicated. There are 3 sets of proton. Say this is A set, this is B set, this is C set. So after getting, now this is the spectrum what we are get from the molecule after its recording. Then what we have to do, we have to measure its height. Say I am measuring the height. The height of the first signal, say 32 centimeter. These are the only imaginary values. Now measuring the second signal, say for example 22 centimeters. The first signal height is 32 centimeter, second signal height is 22 centimeter. Similarly, the third signal height is 55 centimeter. 55 centimeter. This is the first step of integration. So what are the values we are getting? 32 is to 22 is to 55. That is for A proton, for B proton, for C proton. For A set of protons, signal height is 32. For B set of proton, signal height is 22. For C set of proton signal height is 55. So these numbers are called as relative ratio. These are the values 32, 22, 55 are known as relative ratio of protons. Relative ratio of protons. Relative ratio of protons. Then what we have to do? We have to divide each relative ratio value with a smaller. Say for A, its relative ratio is 32 divided by, among the three sets of values, smaller is 22. 32 divided by 22, then we will get 1.5. For B, but for B set of proton, its relative ratio value is 22. 22 on division with 22 is equal to 1. Similarly for C, there is a 55 relative ratio. 55 divided by 22 is equal to 2.5. So this is the second step of integration. So we have 1.5, 1 and 2.5. These values are called as relative number. Relative number of protons present in each set. Now for A set of proton, the relative number is 1.5. For B it is 1. For C it is 2.5. Now after this we have to multiply every relative number with the 2. That is, say for A set of proton, its relative number is 1.5 into 2 is equal to 3. For B set of proton, the relative number is 1 into 2 is equal to 2. For C set of proton, the relative number value is 2.5. 2.5 into 2 is equal to 5. So after multiplying every relative number, we will get absolute number of hydrogen. So for A set of proton, we are getting an absolute number of protons are 3. So A set contain, indicated A set contain 3 hydrogen, B set contain 2 hydrogen, C set contain 5 hydrogen. Are you following? So the first signal has 3 hydrogen, a middle signal has 2 hydrogen, the last signal has 5 hydrogen. So an unknown molecule appeared with the 3 signals. Indicated there are 3 sets of protons in a molecule. Now we have integrated every signal. So on integration, we will get 3 hydrogen, 2 hydrogen and 5 hydrogen. So the molecule consists of total of 10 hydrogen. 5, 2 plus 3. Total of 10 hydrogen are distributed in the ratio of 5:2:3 in 3 sets. So this is the process of integration to count the number of hydrogens present in a unknown molecule. So after this, we'll go for types of protons present in a molecules. First type, the types of protons present in a molecule. Say first type, enantiomer, equivalent protons. Equivalent protons. There are 4 types of protons included in your syllabus. Let us discuss in detail. The first type of protons existed in the molecule is an equivalent protons. Let us, all the protons whatever present in a molecule which are under identical chemical environment and identical magnetic environment are known as equivalent protons. Identical magnetic environment, as well as identical chemical environment. So the protons are a set of protons existed in a molecule which are under identical magnetic environment and identical chemical environment are known as equivalent protons. Equivalent protons. Are you following? For example, you take methane. Let us find out. Now say H1 hydrogen, this is H2 hydrogen, H3 hydrogen, H4 hydrogen. So this is the molecule which consisting of 4 hydrogen, H1, H2, H3, H4. Now the hydrogens are spin active, we know. Now due to the spin, H1 hydrogen generated certain kind of secondary magnetic field, that is nu1. Similarly, due to the spin, the H2 hydrogen also produced secondary magnetic field. H3 hydrogen say nu3, H4 hydrogen say nu4. So each and every hydrogen, there are 4 hydrogen, each and every hydrogen due to the nuclear spin are able to generate certain amount of induced magnetic field, say nu1, nu2, nu3 and nu4. Is it clear? So the magnetic field produced by H1 hydrogen is exactly equal to magnetic field produced by H2 hydrogen as well as H3 hydrogen as well as H4 hydrogen. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens are under identical magnetic environment because H1, H2, H3, H4, all the hydrogens are having equal electron density. Whatever the electron density associated with H1 is equal to electron density of H2, H3 and H4. Therefore, all protons are able to generate same extent of secondary magnetic field. Nu1 is equal to nu2 is equal to nu3 and nu4. Therefore, these 4 hydrogens belongs to identical magnetic environment. Is it clear? Next. Now this is on chemical reaction. Say for example, on chlorination under photochemical condition. Now we are going to study what is the chemical environment. Now the same molecule on chlorination under photochemical condition, we will get methyl chloride. Say H4 hydrogen, carbon, H1 hydrogen, H3 hydrogen, chlorine. Now we will get the product of methyl chloride. Now if H1 hydrogen is replaced by the chlorine, or H2 hydrogen may be replaced, or H3 may be replaced, or H4 may be replaced, makes no difference. We will always get replacement of H1, we will get methyl chloride, or replacement of H2, we will get methyl chloride. Similarly H3 or H4. So replacement of any protons, it resulting the same product, that indicated all protons are chemically identical, makes no difference. H1 may be replaced or H2 may be replaced. Now replacement of any proton, we are getting the same product, means every proton in a molecule are under identical chemical environment. Are you following? So the protons which are under identical magnetic environment, the protons which are under identical chemical environment, such protons are called as equivalent protons. Equivalent protons always absorbed energy at the same frequency. Equivalent protons always absorbed energy at the same frequency. For example, the frequency absorbed by H1 hydrogen is equal to H2 hydrogen, H3 hydrogen and H4 hydrogen. All equivalent protons absorbed energy at the same frequency. Hence, equivalent proton signal appear. These proton signals appear with one signal in the spectrum. With one signal in the spectrum. For example, you take CH4. All 4 protons are equivalent, appear with one signal like this. Only one signal. First hydrogen, second hydrogen, third hydrogen, fourth hydrogen are absorbed energy at the same frequency. Therefore, we will get only one signal. Similarly, ethane. all the 6 protons of ethane are equivalent, one signal appear. Similarly, benzene, there are 6 protons, all the 6 protons of benzene are equivalent, therefore one signal appear. So equivalent protons always appear with only one signal. This is the first type of protons in a molecule. Now coming to the second type, non-equivalent. Non-equivalent protons. After equivalent study, there is a non-equivalent protons. Now, a set of protons in a molecule which are under non-identical magnetic environment, non-identical chemical environment are called as non-equivalent protons. Identical environment, chemical, identical magnetic environment refers to equivalent protons. Non-identical magnetic environment, non-identical chemical environment refers to non-equivalent protons. For example, CH3, CH2, Cl. Now, the electron density of CH2 proton and CH3 protons are different. That is, the 2 protons of CH2 belongs to one group, the 3 protons of CH3 belongs to one group. You can observe all the 3 protons of CH3 groups are magnetically, you consider only CH3. The 3 protons of this group belongs to identical magnetic environment, identical chemical environment, therefore equivalent. We could consider all these protons under one group, say A. Now coming to the 2 protons, these 2 protons of CH2 groups are magnetically identical, chemically identical, therefore these groups belongs to 1, that is B group. But the CH2 protons are differ from CH3 proton or with CH3 proton with respect to magnetic environment and chemical environment. That is, the magnetic field produced by CH2 proton is different from magnetic field produced by CH3 proton, as these two sets of protons are differ with respect to electron density. We discussed in the yesterday class. So when there is a electron density difference, there is a difference in the magnetic environment also. The magnetic field, extent of magnetic field produced by CH2 proton is different from the extent of magnetic field produced by CH3 proton. So these two sets of protons are different with respect to magnetic environment. Is it clear? Now coming to chemical environment. Now say if we react this molecule with some X2, whatever it may be. Now if a proton is replaced from CH2 group, then we will get CH3, CH, Cl and X, one substituted product. If the proton is replaced from CH3 group, then we will get this product. You can see the ethyl chloride on reaction, say with X2, whatever the reagent, if the proton is replaced from B set, that is CH2 group, then we will get one substituted. If the proton is replaced from CH3 group, then we will get two substituted. These two products are different. One substituted product is different from two substituted product. That is, on chemical reaction, these two sets of protons are resulting two different products. That indicated the chemical environment of CH2 is different from the chemical environment of CH3. So a CH2 group and CH3 group are different under magnetic environment and chemical environment, therefore called as non-equivalent protons. Non-equivalent protons. So non-equivalent protons always absorbed energy at different frequencies, therefore appear. So when energy is absorbed by the molecule, at different frequencies, therefore appear with more than one signal. Non-equivalent protons always appear in their NMR spectrum with more than one signal. The number of signals are related to number of non-equivalent sets. Now in this case, we may observe two signals, one for CH2 proton, one for CH3 proton. CH3 proton, CH2 proton, because these two are non-equivalent. Non-equivalent absorbed energy at different frequencies. Say CH3 absorbed energy at delta 1, CH2 absorbed energy at delta 2. So number of non-equivalent resulted n number of signals in the spectrum. Now coming to a third type of protons present in a molecule. Number 3, enantiotopic. Enantiotopic protons, equivalent, non-equivalent, and coming to enantiotopic protons. The protons of a molecule which when replaced by the other, if resulted a pair of enantiomers which are non-superimposable mirror images which possesses similar chemical property, similar physical property as well as similar spectral properties. That is, whatever the protons present in a molecule which when replaced with the other, if resulted a pair of enantiomers which are non-superimposable mirror images and possesses similar chemical, similar physical and similar spectral properties. They differ only with respect to their optical activity. One possesses dextro, other possesses levo, that is plus, and other possesses minus. The remaining all properties are same. So such kind of protons are called as enantiotopic protons. For example, you take COOH, here it is CH3, you keep two protons, say A proton, say B proton, proton A and proton B. Now replacement with deuterium, treatment with deuterated water, proton A may be replaced by deuterium or B may be replaced by deuterium. So we will get two isomers. If replaced A proton, now this is HB. Now in the first case, replacement of A proton, we will get one isomer plus B may be replaced to get other isomer. Now you can observe in this case, a molecule consisting of proton A and proton B, treatment with deuterated water, that is D2O. A may be replaced to give the first isomer, B may be replaced to give the second isomer. These two isomers are a pair of enantiomers. These two isomers are a pair of enantiomers. Is it clear? Now, such kind of protons are called as enantiotopic protons. However, the enantiotopic protons present in different isomers, say HB in the first isomer, HA in the second isomer, but absorbed energy, such protons absorbed energy at the same frequency, therefore appear with one signal. Are you following? The enantiotopic proton, however, existed in different isomers, one in first isomer, the other in second isomer, but absorbed energy at the same frequency, therefore appear with one signal. So these are called as enantiotopic protons. Now we will discuss again in the application part. Now coming to fourth type of proton, diastereotopic. Diastereotopic, this is the fourth type of protons, diastereotopic proton. A protons of a molecule which when replaced with the other, say deuterium, if resulted a pair of diastereomers which exhibited dissimilar physical property, dissimilar chemical property, in addition also exhibited dissimilar spectral properties. So such protons are called as diastereotopic protons. Example, COOH, CH3, say OH proton, hydrogen, say HA hydrogen, HB hydrogen. This is A and this is B hydrogen. Treatment with deuterated water. Again A may be replaced or B may be replaced to get two isomers. OH hydrogen, HB, this is deuterium. So once HA is replaced with deuterium, we will get the first isomer. If replaced B proton, the remaining part is same, you can observe. Now in the first isomer, A proton is replaced by deuterium. In the second isomer, B proton is replaced with deuterium. We will get the two isomer. These are a pair of diastereomers. Diastereomers. Now, a protons existed in the diastereomer absorbed energy at different frequencies, therefore appear with more than one signal, whereas in the enantiotopic proton, where the proton signals are appear at the same frequency, hence we can observe only one signal. As the spectral property of enantiomers are same, whereas diastereomers, the chemical property, physical property, in addition spectral properties are also different. So the proton present in the first isomer absorbed energy, say at delta 1 at particular frequency. That is, a proton present in the second isomer absorbed energy at different frequency than the first isomer. Therefore, we will get more than one signal. So this is about types of protons present in a molecule. Now coming to the next other topic, that is chemical shift. Chemical shift, or it is an absorption frequency. That is delta. Chemical shift or absorption frequency, that is delta. Now we have an unknown molecule, or we have a molecule with n number of sets of protons. Then each and every set is differ with the other set, say non-equivalent protons. Therefore absorbed at different frequencies and appear with more than one signal. So every set of proton present in a molecule absorbed energy at particular frequency value. Then we have to identify where the proton is absorbed energy for our application. Are you following? So for calculating the absorption frequency of each set of protons in a molecule, we have two equations. One is frequency of absorption is equal to 2 nu H0 divided by H. This is one equation, a classical equation which is derived in the yesterday's class. Absorption frequency is equal to 2 nu H0 divided by H, or absorption frequency is equal to gamma H0 divided by 2 pi. This is equation 1, this is equation 2. Are you following? Say for example, we have a molecule like CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl. this is A group, this is B group, this is C group. Absorbed every set, CH A group, B set and C set, absorbed energy and appear with absorbed energy at different frequencies and appear with 3 signals, as there are 3 sets of protons like this, C, B and A. This is the spectrum of a molecule. So we have a molecule where the 3 set it existed, it consists of 3 sets of proton. One set is CH3, a middle CH2, terminal CH2 group, ABC group. So each set of proton differ with the other with respect to electron density or with respect to magnetic or chemical environment. So 1, 2, 3 sets of protons are non-equivalent protons. Therefore, just now we learned about non-equivalent protons always appear with more than one signal. Therefore, each non-equivalent, CH3 one signal, CH2 other signal, terminal CH2 other signal. So each set of proton absorbed energy at a particular frequency value and appear with the signal in the spectrum. Now we don't know where every set of proton absorbed energy. So we can observe a CH3 signal, CH2 signal middle and CH2 signal terminal. But the question is, at what frequency CH3 proton absorbed? At what frequency B set of proton, C set of proton absorbed energy? We don't know. So we have to predict the frequency absorbed by A set of proton, B set of proton and C set of proton. For that we have two equations. Absorption frequency is equal to 2 nu H0 divided by H, or absorption frequency is equal to gamma H0 divided by 2 pi. These are the two equations, one derived from classical mechanics, the second equation derived from quantum mechanical equation. So classical equation and quantum mechanical equation. Now in this, nu stands for absorption frequency. This is secondary magnetic field. This is extent of external magnetic field applied divided by Planck constant. The second equation, where this is gamma. Gamma is a gyromagnetic ratio of proton. Extent H0 stands for extent of external magnetic field applied. This is 2 pi. Is it clear? Let us calculate the absorption frequency of CH3. Say CH3 absorption frequency is equal to secondary magnetic field produced by CH3 group and extent of external magnetic field applied to CH3 group, substituting Planck constant value. Then we will get the absorption frequency. Similarly, if you want to calculate B set of proton frequency, frequency of middle CH2 is equal to secondary magnetic field produced by middle CH2 protons and extent of applied magnetic field applied to the proton of middle divided by Planck constant. In the same way, C set can be calculated, or we can also use second equation. Say absorption frequency of CH3 group is equal to gamma value of a proton into extent of external magnetic field applied to the CH3 proton divided by 2 pi. Then we can calculate. So using these two equations, we can calculate the absorption frequencies of each and every set of protons existed in the molecule. Now here the gamma stands for gyromagnetic ratio of proton. So it is a constant. A proton gamma value, maybe it existed in the CH3 group, or it may be existed in the CH2 middle, or it may be terminal. Its value always constant. Now coming to substituting H0, then we can calculate the absorption frequency. So these are the two equations. Coming to practicality. Practically, however, theoretically it is possible. Simply substituting secondary magnetic field and extent of applied magnetic field and H value. Similarly, substituting gamma value and extent of external magnetic field and 2 pi value. So theoretically it is good. We can imagine, we can calculate secondary magnetic field produced by each set of proton practically. If we know H0 value, we can get CH3 absorption frequency. Similarly, if we know H0 utilized for middle CH2, then we can calculate. If we know H0 for terminal CH2 group, we can calculate. Theoretically it is possible, but practically calculating absorption frequency for every set of proton is highly difficult. It is impossible because the whole molecule is exposed in the instrument to a range of external magnetic field. Are you following? Theoretically, using the equations, we can calculate the absorption frequency for each and every set. But coming to practicality, practically it is not possible because we are exposing the whole molecule in the instrument to a range of external magnetic field. The external magnetic field may be in between 0 to 1.38 Tesla, or it may be in the range of 0.0 to 1.54 Tesla, or it may be 0.0 to 2.32 Tesla, or it may be 0.0 to 2.54 Tesla, depending upon the instruments available. Are you following? So some kind of instrument has a magnetic field in the range of 0 to 1.32. Some other kind of instrument has a magnetic field in the range of 0 to 1.54 or 0 to 2.32 or 0 to 2.54. So whatever it may be, what we are doing, we are exposing our molecule to a range of external magnetic field. For example, I exposed this molecule to a range of external magnetic field 0 to 1.32 Tesla. Now, a molecule, the whole molecule is exposed to a range of magnetic field that is 0 to 1.32 Tesla. Are you following? Now, each and every set of protons utilize the magnetic field required it for splitting of degenerated energy state into energy level. CH3 protons consume external magnetic field for splitting of its degenerated state into its energy levels. Similarly, the middle CH2 proton also consumes an external magnetic field for splitting of its degenerated state into energy level. Similarly, C proton also consume external magnetic field, that is H01, H02, H03. Now this is H0. Now you can see this is the molecule exposed to a range of external magnetic field 0 to 1.32 Tesla, from which say A proton consumes H01, B proton consumes H02, C protons consume H03. Why it consumes the external magnetic field? Just we learned in the principle of NMR spectrum, external magnetic field is required in order to split the degenerated energy state of a nuclei into energy levels. For that, every set of proton consumes the magnetic field. Is it clear? But the exact utilization of external magnetic field by each set is not known. We don't know the extent of H01. We don't know extent of H02. Similarly, we don't know the extent of H03. However, every set of protons of a molecule consumes the external magnetic field from a range to which the molecule is exposed. 0.0 to 1.32. Just now I told it is depends upon instrument available. Now from the range, every set consumes the magnetic field. Say CH3 for H01, CH2 consumes H02, CH3 consumes H03. But the exact extent of magnetic field consumed or utilized by CH3, CH2 and terminal CH2 groups are exactly not known. When H0 values are not known, now when H0 values are not known, how can we get absorption frequency? Now absorption frequencies are calculated substituting gamma value, H0 value and 2 pi value. Now we have a gamma value, 2 pi value, but we don't know the H0 value. External magnetic field consumed by CH3 is not known. External magnetic field consumed by CH2 is also not known. External magnetic field consumed by the terminal CH2 is also not known. When the exact H0 consumed or utilized by every set of proton is not known, not possible to calculate absorption frequency for CH3, for CH2 and terminal CH2. Therefore, the absorption frequencies of every set of proton in a molecule are calculated by comparing with the absorption frequency of a proton present in a standard molecule. Are you following? In general, the absorption frequencies are calculated for a sample molecule by the process of comparing with the absorption frequency of the proton present in a standard molecule. In general, how I can discuss later. In general, tetramethylsilane it is abbreviated as TMS. Tetramethylsilane is used as a standard where the absorption frequency of proton present in this molecule is exactly known, that is absorption frequency is equal to 0.0 ppm. Therefore it is standard. The absorption frequency of protons of TMS is not known to us, that is delta is equal to 0.0 ppm. That is a protons present in the tetramethylsilane absorbed energy at 0.0 ppm. That is high frequency value. Is it clear? So in general, this is TMS is used as a standard because it has many advantages. Number one, first advantage, why we are using TMS as a standard? Because it has many advantages. Let us discuss few advantages associated. Say number one, tetramethylsilane has a tetrahedral geometry, that is it consisting of 12 equivalent proton. First CH3 is equal to second CH3 is equal to third CH3 and fourth CH3. So this consisting of 12 equivalent protons, therefore its signal appear as a sharp and intense signal. Sharp signal as well as intense signal, higher intensity signal, so that it make easy to locate the TMS signal among all other sample proton signals in the spectrum. This is one advantage. Number two, second advantage. Now in TMS, silicon is electropositive atom. Silicon is an electropositive atom. The carbon is electronegative, so that all the protons attached with the electronegative carbon belongs to high electron density, therefore appear the proton signal at higher frequency values. When the standard proton signals appear at higher frequency value, when compared with the sample proton signal, which make easy to compare to get the absorption frequency for sample proton. This is second advantage. Now third advantage. The third advantage, tetramethylsilane is a highly volatile liquid. Tetramethylsilane is a highly volatile liquid, so that we can easily recover our sample after its recording. So it is a volatile liquid. After recording of NMR spectrum for a sample, without application of any analytical technique, simply on exposure to air, tetramethylsilane get evaporated from the sample, so that we can recover our sample. So sample recovery is easy because of its high volatile nature. Next, fourth advantage. Tetramethylsilane is soluble in water as well as soluble in organic solvents. Soluble in water as well as soluble in organic solvents. Water solubility of this molecule is due to ionic nature. You can see silicon is electropositive, carbon is electronegative. So this existed ionic in nature, therefore water soluble. Next, it is also soluble in organic solvents. The solubility of TMS in the organic solvents is due to the presence of polar CH3 groups. There are 4 CH3 groups which are in polar nature, or which are polar in nature, which make the whole molecule to be soluble in organic solvents. So ionic nature make it soluble in water. Polar groups of CH3 make the whole molecule to be soluble in organic solvents. In general, the NMR spectrums are recorded in a solution phase by mixing a sample with a standard and with a suitable solvent, suitable non-protic solvents. So the NMR spectrum in general recorded in a solution phase, mixing our sample with the tetramethylsilane, that is 1% tetramethylsilane, and as well as adding some kind of non-protic solvents. The meaning of non-protic solvent is the solvent without hydrogen, which do not contain any hydrogen, is called as non-protic solvents, and its spectrum is recorded. What happens in the spectrum? The solvent signals are not appeared because we are chosen a non-protic solvents. Protons are absent, but the spectrum contain a signal for TMS and a signal from sample molecule. Now here the sample is dissolved in a suitable non-protic solvents depending upon the solubility of our sample. If the sample is soluble in water, then it is dissolved in deuterated water. If the sample is soluble in CCl4, then it is dissolved in CCl4. In that way, the solubility of the sample, that is making a solution for recording of a sample, dissolving in a suitable non-protic solvent, the solvent selection depends upon the solubility of sample molecule. Now here, tetramethylsilane is soluble in both kind of solvents, in water as well as in organic solvents. So whatever the solvent we can choose for dissolution of our sample molecule, in that TMS is also easily soluble. If we choose water as a solvent for dissolving our sample, then TMS is soluble in water. If we choose organic solvent for dissolution of our sample molecule, again the TMS is also soluble in organic solvents. So whatever the solvent we choose for dissolution of our sample, the TMS can be easily soluble. Means the TMS produce always the homogeneous sample solution, from which we can get a fine and expected spectrum. So its solubility make us to getting a fine spectrum from the sample. Therefore the TMS is used as a solvent, as a standard molecule. Let us now, for the comparison of absorption frequencies of a sample proton, the sample the sample, say for example I am taking CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl, a sample, plus added 1% tetramethylsilane plus solvent, whatever the suitable solvent. Once again, here the solvent selection depends upon solubility of sample molecule. So a sample is mixed with 1% TMS called as internal standard and dissolved in a suitable solvent to get a solution, to get a sample solution, and then recorded the spectrum and recorded its spectrum. Now we have a signals like this. We have a signals like this. We have chosen a sample as N-propyl chloride. This is A proton, this is B proton, this is C proton. So a sample is mixed with 1% TMS and dissolved in a suitable non-protic solvent and recorded the spectrum. The spectrum contains a signal for sample proton and a signal from TMS. Now here in this case, this is a C proton signal, this is B proton signal, this is A proton signal. Now we learned about the TMS contain 12 equivalent protons, hence it appears with sharp and intense signal. Its intensity is too high. So this is the signal with highest intensity belongs to TMS protons. TMS protons. We know the protons present in the TMS absorbed energy at 0.0. So the energy absorbed by the TMS proton is 0.0. Later comparison, we don't know the absorption frequency of A, absorption frequency of B and absorption frequency of C. Now the absorption frequencies are calculated by comparing with the absorption frequency of protons of standard. Say to get the absorption frequency of A proton signal, then we have to compare with the TMS proton signal, that is like this. The difference in the absorption frequency of TMS signal to the A set of proton is measured by the process of comparison. Just we have to predict what is the difference in the frequency between A proton signal and TMS signal. Say for example, it is the 1.1. Then for second proton, for calculating second proton signal frequency, then we have to compare the position of second proton signal with the position of TMS. That is, we have to measure the difference between in the frequency of second proton signal to that of the TMS proton signal. Say for example, we may get 3.8 like that. Similarly, to get the absorption frequency for third set of proton, again we have to measure the difference in the absorption frequency, measure the difference in the frequency of C proton to that of TMS proton. They say for example, we may get some 4.6 like this. Is it clear? Now, once there is a TMS signal, we can easily predict the absorption frequency at this point belongs to 0.0. So comparison of our proton signal position with the 0.0 or TMS signal, then we will get the absorption frequency for first one. Similarly second, similarly third one. That is, when we predict the difference in the frequency between first signal and second signal, say we may get 1.1 ppm, indicated the first proton signal appeared at 1.1, delta is equal to 1.1. Similarly, measuring the difference in the second set of proton signal to that of the TMS signal, say this difference in the frequency belongs to 3.8. So this is 3.8. the absorption frequency for CH2 is 3.8. Similarly, the third signal, it is 4.6. Is it clear? So this is a process of comparison for calculating the absorption frequency. You imagine, if we are not mixed the TMS, to the sample, what happens? We don't know the position of 0.0 frequency. Therefore, we may not calculate. Therefore, if we mixed the TMS and its signal is present in the spectrum, we may predict its position as 0.0. Starting from 0.0 to our proton signal, by the process of measuring, we may get absorption frequency 1.1. Similarly, from 0.0 to second signal position, it is 3.8. Third signal position, it is 4.6. So we are getting absorption frequency of sample protons by the process of comparison with what? With the absorption frequency of TMS present in the sample. Is it clear? Now, the tetramethylsilane contain protons. The sample is also contain protons. Therefore, we would expect our sample protons signal to be appear at 0.0 ppm. Are you following? Both TMS as well as the sample consisting of the protons similar to TMS proton, we would expect our sample proton to be appear at the same frequency, that is at 0.0 ppm. But the absorption frequencies are depends upon chemical environment around the proton, electron density or chemical environment around the proton. The chemical environment around the proton of TMS is different from the chemical environment of around the protons of sample. That is, you take any two molecule, there is a difference in the chemical environment or electron density around the protons of one molecule to that of the other molecule. Therefore, because of difference in the chemical environment or chemical nature, in the same way, the chemical environment of protons of TMS is different from the chemical environment of protons of sample. Chemical environment is nothing but electron density difference. Therefore, due to the difference in the chemical environment, a sample protons are shifted from 0.0 to somewhere. Are you following? Just similar to TMS, we are expecting our sample proton signals to be appear at 0.0. But because of difference in the chemical environment, the sample proton signal, instead of appearing at 0.0, they are shifted to somewhere. This difference is called as chemical shift. So because of difference in the chemical nature of sample proton to that of standard proton, the sample proton signals are shifted to somewhere instead of from 0.0. This difference of shift is called as chemical shift. So with the help of comparative process, we can predict the absorption frequencies of sample protons. So this is about chemical shift. So with this, I complete today's lecture. Now we will discuss the other topics which are existed or which are left over in the syllabus in the tomorrow's lecture. Thank you very much.